Hi, I'm Shane Phillips, the CEO of the Phillips Group, and I'm here at the Hakama Corporate Governance Convention with Vanessa Eastham Fisk, who is an independent board director and holds several board positions across the Middle East. Vanessa, thanks for coming.
Sure.
Vanessa, as the Middle East corporate governance narrative unfolds, what do you see as some of the challenges it might face as it works to exceed global standards?
I think, like most things, we're on a journey. And I think each country in the Middle East owns their own journey. So you're going to see some countries embrace quite rapidly sound governance principles that are recognisable globally. And others will take a little bit longer. I think, the will is there. The means of implementation and execution, I think, is still being worked on. I think some of the challenges that I see sitting on boards, both here in the Emirates, Bahrain, Saudi in particular, is very much around the board as a whole, not necessarily individual positions. And I think for true board effectiveness, which by itself then creates strong corporate governance ethos and principles and culture, it's very much around how can we make sure the board has the right level of competence, and for competence I mean skills, experience, knowledge. How can we make sure the board has the right amount of diversity? And I don't just mean gender diversity. For me, diversity is more about diversity of thought. So people that bring a different way of looking at complex problems, that look at opportunities, that look at trends. And to me, I think that's the most important thing about diversity. Can we embrace someone that thinks very differently than perhaps traditionally has been the norm within the board makeup? So I think construct of the board, the competencies, the diversity of the board, the willingness of the board to challenge each other. I think that's another area. So, and I talk about constructive friction. And what I mean about that is not creating chaos and animosity. I'm talking about different points of view, being able to share those in a very safe environment. And at the end of that debate or discussion, the board comes to a decision that may be a more powerful and effective decision than if from the beginning there'd been just total disagreement with total agreement with one point of view.
Vanessa, what do you see as the role as the independent director, especially within the Middle Eastern context?
From my perspective as an independent, it is being able to bring to bear not only my background, my ability, my experience, my skills, but I think to not being a shareholder representative or part of the ownership structure, I think allows me to have a breadth, have a point of view, bring a context that sometimes might be lacking or missing. And I think the power of that is, you avoid the tendency to metaphorically speak the same language. So as an independent, I always say I am independent of the shareholders, absolutely, but I'm not independent of the business. And I think that nuance is really important. So for me, as an independent, one of the things that I hold myself to is I'm really curious. Okay, I'm curious by nature, and I'm curious as an independent director, which is I'm often asking questions because I'm curious about the answer. Either I know the answer and I'm curious whether I'll receive the answer, or I'm curious because I genuinely don't know and I want to know. And some of my questions might be really room 101, idiotic at times. I hold my hands up to that. I have no shame in that. And my ability to ask those questions and feel it's part of my role, get under the skin, get under the bonnet of some of the issues, as I would say, I think helps, because what I find when I'm sat with a board that is mainly constructed on sort of nationalistic lines, you know, and culturally they are probably a little more hesitant to ask those questions. You know, I'm there to ask those questions, and the answer then can be shared and absorbed and processed and reflected on by the entire board. So, you know, I'm a true believer in, I believe all boards should have independent directors. I believe all boards should have a majority of independent directors. But equally, I think independence needs to be fully framed and fully understood as to what one might mean by that. So a board could say, I've got 5 independent directors. Okay, how do you test that those individuals are truly independent? And I don't mean prescriptively, they've no financial relationship with the rest of the board members or the owners or the shareholders. I'm talking about independence of mind and thought, as well as independence legally or financially. So I will always be evangelical about the role of independent directors in this part of the world.
Vanessa, thank you so much for your time. It was great hearing your insights.
Thank you, Shane.